Bagay pou m fè konye?
Nou la? Est-ce que YouTube la marché?
Oui.
Ok. Pourquoi Tasha? Pourquoi Dr. Nicolas? But I'm ready anytime you're ready.
Will you be live on Facebook?
They should be.
Should be. Yeah.
Hi, Dr. G.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Great. What about you?
Ma fam. Kote neg yo, ye se la mwen vle ye, neg Haitien yo. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, exactement. You know, ma fam?
Yes.
Blessings to you, Dr.
Ma
J.
fam. How you guys? Good to see you all.
Good to hear you.
Just to let you know, we already live on YouTube.
That's a good news.
Good evening, Liana. How are you? I don't know if Natasha, Dr. Janak is here. Man, the man looks good tonight, right? So thank you, Samson, for hosting. We're supposed to go live. Pamela, is Pamela the one here? Supposed to go live on Facebook. Pamela, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So I know we're doing both recordings, so we can make sure we get clips of this out to others, but also we're gonna go live on Facebook as well, right, Pamela? Just to make sure.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I know it's 7:10. Whenever you're ready, Samson, we are. So, Pamela, you let us know when we're ready to go.
Yes, I will. I'm starting to let people in.
Hi, Job.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, from where, ma'am?
Voilà.
Hein?
Tá bom.
Só apelou comme ça.
Un pile bagay.
Oh, no bad guy. Oh, bad
Pile
guy.
bagay.
From. And, my favorite, not that you're not all my favorite, but as you know, Jeff makes a top, you guys know.
Ah, okay.
Oh,
Jeff
Jeff's your
top the,
favorite.
I'm just saying,
Jeff's your favorite. Okay.
He hold a special place. That's all I'm saying. All of them hold a special place, but you know.
I know.
Okay. But really, truly, guys, an opportunity to say thank you to all of you for being here. This is a continuation for the conversation that we started at the Haitian Mental Health Summit. It really, really is important. This is June, it's Haitian, Men's Month, and this is an opportunity for us to host this conversation. Is really is important, and so we don't take it lightly. And we know incredibly busy all of you are. So I want to say thank you on behalf of Rebati and the whole entire team for making the time to join us and for being a part of this conversation. So thank you so much for being here. I have a few people like they don't want to, that's why I'm not on camera, because I have a few people here with me who's listening, just so you know. Sometimes you see one person, but you don't know there's a whole team of people around that. So I have about 5 people with me here listening as well, just so you know, Varzy, Pamela, Wendy, Jack. I just want to say, just to recognize them for being a part of this conversation with all of you as well. So thank you, and I'll turn things over to Samson.
OK. Bonsoir tout le monde. Jeudi, c'est 26 juin 2025. C'est avec pile contentement, ma connaît avec on aucun chaîne plaisir pour nous avec vous rencontrer ou dans panel Rebati. Mantal mettre pour webinaire ça sur dialogue nous toujours fait Jeudi nous décider et travailler sur même thème qui c'est santé mentale mais c'est un sujet qui est un peu différent ou bien spécifique qui c'est santé mentale garçon et nous connaissons culturellement qui ça veut dire pour nous surtout garçons haïtiens. Donc, c'est avec un peu de plaisir que nous rentrons la caillou pour nous faire chita parler ça, ou même qui dans 4 coins monde là, ou capable de suivre nous par Zoom, et sur Instagram, live on Facebook, et dans YouTube. Nous vraiment honorés pour nous gagner avec nos 3 spécialistes, et nous avons commencé tout d'abord avec la présentation Job Bruna, qui gagne plus passé 10 ans d'expérience dans la question santé mentale garçon, il grandit en Floride, dont master dans l'éducation, et il s'est conseiller tout dans conseiller national dans NCC, et il s'est conseiller pour CCH, CCMHC, c'est thérapeute principal dans Challenges, Concrete, Counseling Services. Donc, c'est tout un long CV. En deuxième position, nous gagnons pas vraiment position, mais qui te dit, deuxième panéliste nous gagne, c'est Matt Janeus, qui fait que le jeune nous, Matt nous salue, nous te salutations dans le chat là. Les mêmes lycées thérapeute conjugal, familial, agréé, reconnu pour lutte qu'elle a menée contre stigmatisation, plusieurs années d'expérience dans la question, fait conférence et sur santé mentale, directeur de Race Realities à Costa Rica. Et si on parle avec lui, il a un slogan, il dit c'est « Je suis le thérapeute dont j'avais besoin dans ma jeunesse ». Et puis, nous avons Jeff Cadichon, et lui-même, il a un doctorat dans la question clinique, psychologie et psychopathologie. Il a remporté 2 fois Open Society Foundation et il lit tous ses auteurs, narration dans la question santé mentale, il est professeur psychologie dans l'Université d'État d'Haïti. Il travaille pour MSPP, il travaille pour UNICEF en Haïti. Donc, c'est tout un panel rempli de spécialistes nous gagnons pour nous, avec nous à Soya, pour nous parler de causer santé mentale. Merci tout le monde. Merci avec l'équipe Rebati qui te mette bagay ça en place, pour toute mise en place qui fait, toute sensibilisation qui fait sur tous les réseaux sociaux. Merci avec panélistes nous, mais merci surtout avec moun qui rejoignent nous pour participer et nous capable de dire si vous intéressé ou capable aller dans le chat là ou bien aller dans la bio, dans le link là ou joindre dans le link qui sous page Rebati Santé Mentale dans Instagram ou capable de joindre le link pour faire partie de l'organisation ça cap travaille dans santé mentale depuis plus passé 10 ans, on dit plus passé parce que c'est tout de suite après le tremblement de terre là, tout le monde a parlé de reconstruction pays d'Haïti et puis on équipe dont Gerda Nicolas, Dr. Douillon, avec tout l'autre que je n'ai cité non, penser avec, si on a parlé de reconstruire Haïti, il faut que nous pensions à reconstruire mental haïtien après catastrophe ça qui se passait en Haïti. Donc, encore une fois, c'est un plaisir pour moi avec nous. Nom, c'est Jean-Samson Edouard, c'est moi-même qui a servi pour Assoya. Moi, c'est ancien coordonnateur de Bati Santé Mentale. Je vous dis, je fais partie du board là. C'est avec un peu de plaisir que nous avec nous. Bonsoir à tous les panélistes, nous, Jeff, Janeus. Bonsoir à tout le monde. Comment nous y à quel sentiment nous rejoignons pour faire chita parler ça à Assoya. On a commencé avec Jeff tout d'abord.
Bon, bonsoir Samson, bonsoir tout le monde. Et c'est un plaisir pour moi ensemble avec nous. Moi vraiment content. Si tout le monde a moi sensibilisation sur santé mentale garçon. Donc, et c'est un bagage qui est important pour nous et son engagement moi-même, moi personnellement, pour me faire, et non seulement pour moi sur santé mentale, mais et sensibiliser les garçons, tant que nous, pour nous parler sur santé mentale et comprendre tête nous, et puis pour nous capables de venir, et puis bon monde pour une plus bonne société. Je suis content là avec nous jeudi. Moi, je suis tout content parce que moi, j'ai partagé panel ça avec et des amis, des collègues qui extraordinaires, qui ont pile talent, que m'apprennent un pile de eux déjà, puisque nous partageons un panel ensemble. Madjani avec Jean Bruna, donc c'est un plaisir pour moi encore une fois. Et puis merci à Rebati Santé Mentale pour l'invitation ça. Merci pour belle initiative, c'est là.
Merci un pile. Job, Matt, on quick salutation.
I'll go first. Thank you everybody for inviting us here and us having this space. This is really important for Men's Mental Health Month for us to recognize that the guys also need attention when it comes to mental health. I'm pleased to be working with Jeff and Matt. These are my guys. You know, we've had great conversations. We've done great presentations already when it comes to men's mental health. And I'm glad to be able to put this out there more and have more of a discussion and, you know, continue to expand on the conversations that we've had already. So good evening to everybody. I hope looking forward to a great talk tonight.
Thanks.
Yeah, peace and blessings to you all. Thank you for having this. Ça fait quelques temps parce que nous connaissons assez moi qui un peu valet. On a fait une conversation avec papa juste hier. Et puis nous avons parlé de papa, de grand-papa. Et puis nous avons parlé de qui qualité santé mentale était gagnée. Et puis nous avons dit l'histoire. So, je suis content pour voir différence qui n'a pas papa et qui n'a moi-même. And I'm happy to be breaking the cycle of transgenerational trauma in my family and other families as well. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Here we go. Na parti. Monsieur, nous connaissons, ou se parler de papa, généralement depuis nous, les garçons, surtout là, nous, dans le mois de juin, nous allons entrer dans le dernier dimanche, c'est date Haïti, lui-même choisi pour célébrer papa. Yo. En Haïti, surtout dans la culture, nous, l'aime dit en Haïti, pas seulement géographiquement, mais dans la société haïtienne, nous, quand garçon, yo, papa, yo, comme yon wok, comme yon, et ou nous, et gon petit slogan, yo dit, garçon, pas de crier, garçon, supposé camper. Première question pour nous, à soi, c'est comment nous pensons stigma qui sont dans la culture, nous, empêcher garçon, surtout, chercher aide les yon en dépression ou bien les yon en état psychologique qui demande aide. If you want me to answer the question in English, that can be, how does stigma affect men' willingness to seek help?
So I'll go first. I think this is a very great question. Et puis, on commence à qualité haïtien. Et puis, you know, I'm learning. So, let nous qualité. You know, my guy qui entre notre tête that comes up that allows me to think about what is culture as far as when we call Haitian culture, because some of the things that we've learned, some of the things that I've seen in my father isn't necessarily what I consider my culture. I consider a lot of it is a lot of what he's gained from colonization. Like, for example, when I was having this conversation about my grandfather, one of the words that he brought up was habitant. And I've known that word since I was a child to be a derogative term of somebody that's like not presenting well. But what I've learned from my dad in that conversation was my grandfather was a habitant. And that's a person of many trades. That's a person that's a butcher, a farmer, you know, and a lot of other things. And so it allowed me to reframe what was then taught to us as something negative and something that could be considered culturally negative is sometimes more positive when you dig deeper. And so for me, I think a lot of the stigmas that we associate with Haitian culture may not have started with what we think is our culture, may have been brought to us by a different source. And we've adopted these things as our culture and made them our dominant way of presenting ourselves. For example, when we say stigma, right? Stigma are the things that block us from seeing the value and getting services and admitting that there may be an issue with our mental and emotional and even physical state sometimes, right? As men, the masculine side of us won't allow us to share what is going on internally. And I think that's not ours, right? So I don't claim that as our culture. I know it's there, but I wouldn't claim that as our culture. What I would say is that it is prevalent because we have been taught, we have learned a lot about, you know, ways that a man should be that isn't directly how, you know, we were originally. When I say originally, I don't just mean the original people of the island of Haiti. I'm talking about going back to Haiti. Going back to Africa, when you think about how culturally men showed up. Men showed up in a variety of ways that wasn't just what is in quotation as masculine. We were nurturers and we are nurturers still. We are providers, we are protectors, we are a lot of different things. And so I think some of the things that keeps us away from talking about mental health or talking about mental wellness in general may not be ours. And so what I think sometimes is that we have to detach from these cultural stigmas as far as being hyper-masculine. And that's the only way we can show up, not exhibiting pain, not addressing our mental and emotional issues, and finding ways to then embrace the variety of ways men show up, which may be the divine feminine, which taps into our emotional, more soft side and nurturing side of us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I don't know if I should go right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to mix the languages, m'a mélanger anglais à créole parce que je suis certain que peut-être il y a des gens qui captent là tout qui parle créole. But when you ask the question, the first thing that came into my mind is like about a month ago, I was listening to De Tout et de Rien, which is a podcast hosted by Kyle Pett and DJ K9, and they had a host and they were talking about mental health randomly. And then I'm not gonna say the name of the host, but he said something like, son nèg vin di mou fè dépression, mon cher, m'a bat nèg ça. Comment nèg fait dépression? Comprenez? Like he said it like normally, like spontaneously. For him, it was normal to say like, if a man come to me and say like, hey, I'm suffering from depression, so I'm gonna beat him or I'm gonna hit him, because a man cannot say something like that. So the point I would like to talk about is like acceptance from peers. So sometimes we need that, and culturally that can be a very big problem. We don't want to have this step on our head, like saying like we have depression. This is the way we see it. Parce que lorsqu'on zami ou qu'on est l'opéral dit ou fait dépression, c'est comme ça. Wow, you don't feel like you want to talk about it because you will be judged, and your friend will be judgmental and you don't want to talk about it. And for me, this is related also in our culture, but Lina Mondlan too, it's like personal challenges, because it's about your self-image, specifically when you are part of a group, and then you're gonna say to yourself, man, I have to be a man, so I'm supposed on garçon, so I'm not gonna talk about it because not only it's personal, but that's gonna affect my my personal my self-image, the way I see myself. So I will see myself as someone who is weak if I talk about it, if I seek for therapy, for example. And I think this is a kind of thing we need to mention. But I was seeing before the conference today, before the webinar, I had my last session of the day. It was with a man seeking for therapy. He's in his 50s, and he said, before coming to you, I didn't want to go to therapy, because before coming to see you, I think the best thing to do as a man, I was supposed to do drugs, use alcohol, and c'est ça nous fait souvent, using like escape methods. So because we feel like as a man, so you have to be strong. Nous t'a préféré so like whether we get drunk instead of talking to someone or seeking for therapy, because we need to maintain this idea of being strong. So yeah, this is some stuff that are really common in our culture. So comme si nous garçons yo souvent à faire ça. Et gon l'autre bagay encore que moi envie parler de lui, parce que même zanmim, like imagine that I'm a doctor. Moi gen zanmim qui qu'on a dit ça, come on man, I'm not going to therapy because like you just talk to people. It's like they minimize what we are doing. They sit around be like just like it is useless because we just We are talking to people. And the good thing about this is once they started, c'est moun sa yo pa vle kite, c'est moun sa yo ki bezwen session an dure des temps parce que yo tellement gen bagay yo vle pale. They cannot stay only for an hour. They want to stay for like 2 hours because they understand how it is important. So I'm experiencing that like right now with some of my clients. So I think this is important to mention that. So that's the reason why this conversation is important because we need to educate them to understand how the way they understand seeking therapy or taking care of their mental health, they misunderstand that and we need to change the narrative about that. So that's the reason why this conversation is really important. Si kon denye bagay mte ka ajoute, par exemple, ou te di sa nan komanseman Samson, jan nou te di la, se ke garçon pa gen dwa kriye, e se de bagay ke nou grandi ansama avek yo. I always say like we use, for example, let's take the emotion of sadness. So it's like a man cannot be sad. And we use the sadness, we use like anger as an umbrella. Under the umbrella, you're gonna have sadness or shame and stuff like that. We're not gonna talk about it because we know that as a man, or we were taught, or we believe we cannot be sad. So once we start to embrace our vulnerability, when we start to normalize that, so we will feel much better. So nous poko la même te vle justement mentionner parti ça. Moi pense que gen paquet stigma, gen paquet gens nous tête nous comme garçon. So c'est des bagailles qui affectent santé mentale nous and we have to talk about it. Job, your turn.
I got it. I got it. I'm going to piggyback off what you and Matt said. I'm going to take it from this perspective. Our culture is very strong, very proud. And one thing about our culture is that we are very resilient, very, very resilient. But I think that resiliency sometimes that hurts us because I have to be so strong. I cannot show any weakness. You know, our culture, our history, how we became independent, how we took our independence, all that resiliency is so important to us. But I think sometimes we also get stuck in that place of trying to be resilient so strong that we don't see the other side that we also need to embrace as well. We need to be able to take care of ourselves. Do we able to process other emotions? Do we need to be able to have soft moments and be okay with that so that we can continue the work and what needs to be done? So being able to see that resiliency, but also being able like there needs to be also a break to that resiliency. We can't always be strong all the time. It's not healthy. Being able to find that time for rest. We don't always have to continue to struggle. Like, oh, I'm so comfortable in the struggle. Let me keep struggling. Let me keep being resilient. Let me be being so tough rather than, oh, there's a time to rest. There's a time to fall back. There's a time to take care of yourself. There's a time to be nurturing. But that's not within what's presented with our culture. It's just that resiliency. Let me be strong. I get a lot of West Indian people, clients that come to me like, I don't have time to be sad. I don't have time to be depressed. I have to go to work. I have to go feed my children. I have to go do this. I have to go do that. I have to go take care of business. That's fine. We do that. We're very good at that. But there has to be other parts of life that are also soft and nurturing as well for us to feel everything about life, to experience everything that life actually brings us instead of always trying to just struggle. Just struggling or always trying to reach for the next goal, always working so hard. Are you really living life? And being able to see that those softer parts of life so we can embrace all of life, that's really important. Something that I embrace to a lot or impact on a lot of my clients. Like, do you still want to always be in survival mode? Do you always want to move that way? I tell a lot of my clients, my parents didn't come here for me to be struggled just as much as they did. Like, they came here for better opportunities for me to live the softer life and live easier from the life that they lived in Haiti. So why are we not doing that? Why are we staying stuck in this pattern of the struggle or the constant resiliency all the time? And when my clients start to see that and they start to embrace life a little bit better, they enjoy life better because they see that they can rest. They can enjoy life. They can enjoy self-care. They can enjoy these things. You know, it was hard for even my dad to be like, oh, let me take you on a trip. Let's just go on a trip. Oh, he's like, don't waste your money. I have to go work next week. No, he actually didn't have to go to work. But he's so comfortable working and struggling that's his comfort zone rather than, no, can you experience other parts of life? Where now he's able to embrace it more because he sees it, we talk about it, and he's able to open his eyes to those other things. But should we always stay in that hamster wheel of, let me continue to struggle, let me continue to be resilient, as if it's a badge for me to wear 24/7? And I tell my clients, no, that's not a way to live. I don't always want to be in survival mode. I want to be able to elevate from survival mode to living and eventually thriving.
My goodness. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Les map tande nou et gen des bagay, et des informations qui viennent qui identiques avec expérience que me fait. Moi t'es responsable de l'école professionnelle en Haïti et alors t'es assisté directeur et puis moi posté un bagay Rebati santé mentale, une activité nous t'a fait. Et puis moi t'es en Haïti, Canada étant, li écrit pour le dire ou qu'on est haïtien pas besoin ça va vrai. Et Haïtien pas un problème santé mentale. Nous connaissons nous son peuple qui est résilient. But at the end, I'm so glad, I'm so happy and grateful for Rebati because now we are changing the narrative. Nous c'est cher qui habitent par un l'esprit, par un mental, psychologie, mais nous pas beaucoup de fait. En effet, je pense que Jean de Bagay, ça nous vraiment doit commencer à changer narratif et puis pour nous craser un paquet de barrières qui empêchent les gens de chercher aide. Parce que at the end of the day, no, it's normal. It's normal to ask for help. Thank you, guys. Est-ce que Gagnon nous voulait ajouter avant nous jump to the second question?
Yes, I definitely had something to add because as I'm listening to all these brilliant brothers, give their points, one thing that stuck out to me is the fact that we keep going back to our culture, right? And what I think in my mind is culture should not impede on our wellness. Yes, I love my culture, but when my culture is getting in front of my wellness, that's a problem for me, right? Culture has value, has a lot of value, but my wellness has more value, right? And my emotions are revolutionary, meaning when I feel what I feel, it communicates something to me to make something change. And when I suppress my emotions, when I suppress my thoughts, then nothing moves, it's stagnation inside of me. And that's what I think, but the stagnation manifests in a variety of ways, right? We also are very resilient, but we're also known, the Haitian men, as very aggressive, right? Very stoic, lack of empathy, and this comes from us bottling all of these things, So for me, mental wellness is revolutionary. So I love the fact that we're having this conversation, breaking those stigmas, breaking those chains, and coming into a new state of consciousness.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Nothing else from Job?
Oh, a quick thing I want to say. So, pendant ma parlé, ma pensé avec effectivement, we published a couple of years ago a scientific paper, me and other colleagues, Asian psychologists, Daniel de Rivera, Jude-Marie Sena, all of them teaching psychology abroad. It was an observation we made in Haiti, and then we decided to call it kind of pathological resilience. It goes in line with what we've been saying. It's like what you just said, Matt. It's like, of course, our culture is important. Of course, our cultural beliefs are really important, but our wellness are more important. So, of course, I know we are strong. We have a strong, nation. So we are the first Black independent nation. So we have that. So nobody can take it away. So nous gagnons déjà, nous gagnons nous. But we need also somehow as people, as human beings, to embrace our vulnerability, to understand like sometimes we deserve to get some good rest. So it's okay to not be okay, to understand like we are overwhelmed and we need to get some rest, and we need to take care of our mental health. I remember our podcast conversation when you said, okay, so we need to understand that our mental health matters and we need to spend money on it, we need to invest. So, you said that to me in Bajambli SA. So this is important to change the narrative into to normalize the fact that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be vulnerable and to take care of ourselves. It's okay to look for support. It's okay to talk to a friend. That doesn't mean we are not resilient. And actually, so being able to identify that we are not okay and to seek for support. This is for me an ability to be resilient. So to identify, to be more self-aware, and then to identify the resources and to look for support. So for me, that is really important. And I will put this in one of the characteristics of being resilient. So yeah, so thank you for mentioning this. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Do you think est-ce que nous pensez que résilience là, c'est seulement croyance qui fait un garçon est capable de penser qu'il pas besoin d'aide psychologiquement? Est-ce que pas l'autre croyance encore qui est capable de un garçon silence? Et puis, est-ce que nous pensons qu'il y a un mouvement de changement dans la zone ça?
Okay, I'll jump right in again. So I definitely think there's way more than just the resilience that's keeping us awake. What stigma is, you can break it down into different categories, right? There's actually enacted stigma, meaning things that have happened to people as a result of them admitting that there's a mental health or emotional issue that they have. Like, people treat them different, their reactions are different. If you think about military, when people address their mental health issues in military settings, and very rigid settings, they're not praised for it. They're demoted, and sometimes it may hinder them from climbing, whether it's corporate in different settings. And of course, even outside, when we call it like the streets or whatever, right? People are looked at as less than, right? To display these emotions. And so you have the societal, you have the vocational, you have a lot of different areas that challenge men to then not feel safe enough to open up and address what is happening internally. So it's not just the resilience, it's enacted stigma, but there's also perceived stigma, right? Perceived stigma are the stigmas that we think are happening as a result of someone addressing their mental health issues, right? So perceived stigma are what we're seeing occurring, and what we perceive in our mind that may occur. And then there's self-stigma. How do I think about myself as a person that's addressing my mental health issues based on all the information I've been fed? Now, what is in my mind about myself? I'm weak, man. I'm soft. On the other end, I'm not spiritual. I'm not praying enough. I don't know God enough. On the other end, I'm not masculine enough. These are feminine traits. Why do I have them? And so there's so many other areas that hinder us from actually speaking up and getting the help that we need when it comes to our mental wellness.
I'll piggyback off that. I think that support and what it looks like, and is it a safe place? I think I spoke about this last time when we talked a little bit. So where's a safe place for guys to be able to talk? Is it safe with your own partner? Is it safe within your own boys? Is it safe even at church? Is it safe out in the streets? Wherever it is, like, is it safe for a man to present with other feelings besides either being mad or shutting down? Like, and when we think about men, it's like those are the only two acceptable emotions. Let me just shut down and not say nothing, or let me be mad. Versus we have a host of different emotions that we actually get to express, but are we in safe places enough to be able to express them? If a man says, I'm down, or I'm not having a great day, or whatever the case is, who's actually going to listen? Who's actually going to let him talk and speak that? Who's going to actually sit there and support him and not belittle him? We're in a space where, like I said, is there that safe space? Even your own partner sometimes are like, get over yourself, stop, and don't give them the support that they need in that moment, even from their own female partners who probably will ask for that same thing. It's being able to find that safe space. And for me, I'll give you an example of a safe space for me and my guys. Sometimes it's not, okay, let's go have a talk. Sometimes it's like, okay, let's go out, let's go watch a football game. We watch a football game for like 30 minutes. It's like, hey, look, I had this thing going on. I break it down right there for maybe 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever the case is. We talk about it. It's safe there. We go back and watch the football game. So maybe not look like a natural safe space or like let's directly talk about this thing, but maybe we incorporate it in a way that people already think is manly, for some people anyway. You know, I can sit down and have that conversation, but not everybody is ready to. But where do we find those safe spaces for us as men to be able to express those emotions other than the ones that society deems as normal or what they're used to seeing from us as men? Are we able to find those safe spaces and be in those spaces and trust those spaces to be able to express what we need and get the support that we need to help our mental health?
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Samson. I would add something, and I just saw a question in the chat asking us, how do you, as an Asian male therapist, assist another Asian male to explore the full, I don't know how to pronounce this word, gamut of emotions and normalize. I think I was going to say something maybe that can be an answer to that question. I started seeing Asian men like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think one of the most important thing for him was, as a man, I was able to provide him with a safe space, like Job said, where I was able to validate his feelings. I just only by saying your emotions are valid. It's okay to feel this way. It's okay to feel a certain way because you are experiencing an abnormal situation. So your emotions are valid. So it's okay to feel like you want to cry. So to provide this space for emotional release, to cry and or other stuff like that. So, and one of the key thing, actually, he did say that to me this week again, was self-disclosure. So is the fact that I was able to tell him, oh, what you've experienced, because it has been I'm not gonna give details, but it's something related to racism, or he felt really like he lost his dignity as a person, as a Black man. And then I said, I used to live in France for 5 years. I experienced that, and it was hard. And he came the week after, and then he said, "Doctor, I came back because I feel like for me, I'm okay because the fact that you were able to share your personal experience, that made me understand that it's okay to be vulnerable." And it's okay for me to feel this way, but it's okay also to seek for therapy. So I think validation is something that is really important for us. I mean, for men in general. So, like Job said, so soit parle avec madame ou et puis yo do ou senti ou pas joindre validation ça, ou senti que ou pas ka partager émotion. If you cannot share your feelings like with your partner, it's like you don't have this safe space. So if you cannot do that even at home, even if with the person that is like, I mean, your soulmate, that's going to be complicated. Sometimes we need this safe space to share our feelings, and ça tout capable un problème tout qui empêche nous-mêmes ou bien garçons yo mettre mots sur ça ressenti, ou bien aller chercher aide là, ou bien accepter que yo capable pas bien, et puis pour yo parler avec un monde, ou bien pour aller chercher thérapie, pour aller en thérapie par exemple. So I want to share this because pendant que je vais parler, c'est ça qui monte dans la tête moi. Je pense que c'était peut-être important pour me parler de ça.
Okay, thank you, Kadishan. Talking about emotion, it is the best way to do the transition to the second question. Second question is how that sentence in Creole, garçon pas crier. How that message like show up, garçon pas crier, and then how do traditional views of masculinity impact men's emotions? And before answering to that question, we don't forget we have a big challenge because we have a mixed audience, because a lot of people from Haiti are watching us. So I don't know how you're gonna do that. I know there are a lot of words, technical words, might be not exist in English. So I don't know, guys. Find a way to do it in Creole and in English. Yeah. Donc, comment nous ouais ça? Comment nous passer masculinité capable d'impacter émotion garçon et comment garçon pas crier arriver sur nous comme professionnels dans la santé mentale? Mr. Job, Janice.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
I'm back même dire more in the Creole. Masculinity. That's what mais ça m'a dit c'est côté nous jouons definition masculinity, right? Côté nous jouons definition, right? Where does that come from? Parce que là nous chercher when you dig deeper, là faire research, like for example, on étudier théologie là dans l'école. Et puis on a bagaille on fait research sur lycée. How did we as Haitian people gain religion, right? And see, Sue fait a historical understanding of that. The island of Haiti is predominantly Roman Catholic, right? And see, when you comprend the history of Roman Catholicism, then it breaks down more information about how we gain this idea, l'idée of masculinity, right? So, na kilti women in the Roman culture, you're getting bagayo le paterfamilias, right? Paterfamilias c'est on dessin, on design qui fait not a diamond but a triangle, right? And beyond left, c'est tout garçon. All the men in the culture are to the top, right? At the very top of the Roman culture, Greco-Roman society, right? And so tout garçon en lait, tout papa, uncle, whatever, en lait. And the older guys, that is, then the boys, and then the mothers, and then the daughters, and then the slaves, and then whoever else underneath, right? So that cultural aspect of the Greco-Roman society infiltrated the Greco-Roman church. If you look at the Greco-Roman church structure, it's structured the same way. Men at the very top, men at the very top. And I think if you trickle down, then you see some nuns and so forth. So it's the same kind of pattern that has been taught and adopted by the Haitian culture to then define masculinity in the same way Greco-Roman society defined masculinity. And so that's not ours again, right? And so when we think of masculinity, we have to think about what that means to show up in the world, being a person that can add value is what I said, right? And how does a person add value? Right? You add value when you understand your rites of passage. What did you come in for to contribute? And what we come in to contribute is a variety of things. It's not just to provide and protect, which we were taught to believe, which doesn't leave a lot of room. If I could tell people space to explore, general sante, like how we feel on the inside, and general capacité, right? We're taught to then be so rigid that we can't bend. And if we do bend, we feel we'll break. And so I think a part of the false understanding of masculinity is a part of a false understanding of who we are as men or who we can be as men, right? And so I don't know how to say a lot of that in Creole, so I'll let Jeff help me out a little bit.
Job, vous t'as parlé avant?
Nah, you can go because my Creole is terrible. So you can go ahead. I'm going to answer in English.
Yeah, I would like you to pay attention to the text of Jessica in the chat.
Yes,
She put in the chat. Maybe the next approach can be related to what she put in the chat.
Yeah, dans notre chat là, I can go in Creole. M'kale en Creole directement, m'kale essayer de dire.
Ou béni ou même, ou bless.
Yes. Hallelujah. Yeah, parce que Jessica parlait dans le chat là de guys, you can take a look at Jessica's point of view in the chat. Li dit le fait que faut que nous pas oublier masculinité avec patriarcat que nous gagnons surtout en Haïti, yo marché main en main. Donc tu semblé au marché main en main. Donc c'est un coup, il vient pas ben espace pour garçon senti et senti ça le senti que il pas bien, senti que il sale. So patriarcat vient avec ça et That is really interesting parce que moi-même personnellement, par exemple, I grew up in a Christian family. Ou grandi avec l'idée que garçon c'est du garçon c'est chef Kaila. So, parce que je vous comprends ça, pas vrai?
Yeah,
Mati comprend.
complain. Yeah.
Yeah. Vous comprenez, yeah, mon comprend. Le dit garçon c'est mettre Kaila, c'est comme si dans le cas où doit montrer et que ou strong et que ou pas qu'à montrer émotionné comme si t'as cause tristesse et actually qu'à songer combien de fois moi papa me crier donc li pas trois fois donc in my mind it's like I have like two times yon le et seul il mourit avec on l'autre situation qui était vraiment triste et puis m'te ouais crier ça veut dire in his entire life so moi ouais papa me crier et seulement deux fois. And recently, that's actually amazing because my daughter, my 5-year-old daughter, I was like driving her to school, and then she asked me, it was a deep question. C'est okay, c'est okay, normal, but it was so deep. And she, out of nowhere, she asked me, Dad, do you cry sometimes? Guys, I can tell you, I was like, oh my goodness. Ça, qui je peux me répondre ça? Dans le même moment, c'est supposé normal pour me dire que, yes, I cry sometimes. But it took me a couple of seconds to say, how do I respond to that question? How do I answer to that question? How do I respond to this? Qu'est-ce que ça pour me dire? C'était comme senti, there is a part of me saying, like, yo, you have to be strong, you have to be a man, that you can say, you don't cry. But actually, I did say, yes, I can cry. So I can cry. So I gave her a couple of examples, but I can say it now. So like, I don't know, 10 years ago, probably it would have been very complicated to say, yes, I can cry. And probably spontaneously, I would have said, oh, no, not really, just to be strong, but I'm happy to be able to say, yes, I can cry sometimes. So, and then to normalize that. Gagner ça, l'église là, par exemple, je nous grandis dans la société noire, I think also it's about the gender norms. So, comme si m'daka djou, gen de jan normes de genre yo, comme ça m'daka di en français, c'est-à-dire, yo tout djou, mais qui jan garçon a doye, mais qui jan fille a doye, mais qui émotion pour, mais qui émotion qui pour, même pour qui émotion qui pour garçon, mais qui émotion qui pour fille a. And l'on intégrer ça, it's like we were taught to understand like we cannot cry, we have to be strong and stuff. So, et puis nous transmettre li à l'autre monde, et puis nous gagnons des comportements qui normal pour nous, mais qui liés avec gens comme monde. Like I said in the beginning, so when I was watching the show, de Tout et de Rien, and the guest said like normally, if a guy comes to me and say he's depressed, so I'm gonna beat him, I'm gonna hit him because you cannot be depressed as a man. So, this is the type of thing we need to shift the narrative from this perspective, garçon pas crier, to the other perspective that it's okay to cry though. So, ça c'est ça m'daka dit dans partie ça patriarcat, genre yo, non seulement j'en nous tête nous, mais rôle que yo ban nous c'est comme si m'daka dit son l'ordre yo pas so ou pas gen doit crier et ça malheureusement li prend abouti avec répression émotion, c'est-à-dire qu'on be émotion en dedans, we keep everything inside so we don't cry, so we don't express our feelings. So et dernier ça m'daka dit dans ça c'est que effectivement, moi, compare qui dans cinquantaine, encore une fois, m'a mentionné li que moi, après kounya, et puis, je suis arrivé dans la thérapie, c'est deuxième fois, la parler d'un trauma, elle était vive, elle était gain 9 ans, 9 ans et demi, et ça, il vient rendre compte que, justement, ça a un impact sur tout rapport qu'il gagne avec tête li et rapport qu'il gagne avec l'autre monde. Et once he decided to shift the way he perceived himself, as a man, as a person, and accept his vulnerability and accept to talk about it. But he needed that safe space too, that Job was talking about before. And then now he start feeling better, he start feeling okay. Et puis, ça permet que les gens plus bonne relation avec tête li, et les gens plus bonne relation avec madame li, petite li, et l'autre monde qui dans entourage li. Donc, It's not that easy. There is a lot of complexity that we need to talk about to understand how it is. It can be very complicated for the men also. So m'bavle garçon yo senti que comme si n'a jugé yo pour nous dire fuck you fait ça, fuck you fait ça. We also need to understand the cultural values, the cultural perception of being a man. C'est ça qui fait que nous pas qu'à détacher patriarcat de Jean garçon tout yo tête yo, Jean Jessica dit dans le chat là. I try my best to mix the languages.
You did well.
I'm gonna jump off behind with off of that. I think when it comes to the mentality of masculinity, and you think talk about what Jessica talked about in the chat, the patriarchy. When we think about a leader, somebody or masculinity, we think about leaders, men being leaders, being protectors. And if a man cries, there's this perception that there's a vulnerability there. And somebody who's a leader and a protector can't have vulnerabilities because then whatever he's protecting, whatever he's leading, is susceptible to something. But it's being able to take away that stigma that man can't protect just because he cries or he shows emotion or whatever the case is. But that's what is dictated by what society or the misconception of the stigma that if a man cries, he cannot protect, he cannot lead. Where vulnerability, what Jeff mentioned earlier, is an integral part of human life and being able to actually live a full life. I would say for me, when I looked at my mentors growing up, there was a point where I realized I can't follow the guys that always act like they're perfect, always act like they're strong. It didn't teach me anything. But the guys that had problems or showed me like their faults or showed me where they made mistakes and showed me that they could still recover from that and still be a leader and a protector, that was one of the greatest examples I could get. But the guy that just sat there and couldn't admit or didn't act like everything was perfect or had to just tough it through, I didn't learn anything from that. So being able to show that vulnerability, but still be masculine and go ahead, like, yeah, this happened to me, but I'm gonna deal with my emotions, cope with them, but I'm still gonna take care of my responsibilities as a man. That's a full example of a man for me. Not the guy who just sits still, like nothing's wrong with me. Let me just tough it through. There's no emotions here, whatever the case is. But being able to have that full experience and show me how to have a moment, but still be that man that needs to protect my family, protect my be a leader, and be that guy that the people around me need me to be.
Well, thank you. There is Garcia Goose. He put a text on the chat, and he said anyone can answer. So if you see it, the question about what Dr. Kadishon just said, and everyone can answer it.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the safe space and how do you address it in your friends that don't really want to acknowledge it. I think we have to be the safe space. And what that means is that we have to practice what we preach. We have to show up as a safe space. And because it's such a taboo topic, you always approach it from a place of love and care and compassion. It's not out of a space of judgment. One of the questions that reframing podcast. So one of the questions that we have to learn how to ask is not what's wrong with you, but it's what happened to you or what's happening with you, or what's in the future that's causing you to feel this way, And so there's a lot that we can do individually to become that safe space for each other. And so self-disclosure is one, of course, but choosing the appropriate time and setting. And that comes from a relationship. If I don't have the relationship with a person, then it's not my position to then enter into that person's space. But if I'm calling you a friend, then maybe I do have that position and I do have some knowledge of a best time, a best space, to then engage in that way where vulnerability can be safe and for all of us. And some of the things that I teach men in therapy is how to learn what that safe space is for them. Because when we say safe space, it's not an arbitrary one-size-fit-all modality. It's something that looks and feels different for all of us. I wasn't necessarily a morning person until I started having all these kids, and now I have no choice but to be a morning person. And so a safe space for me would not have been in the morning, right? Meaning because when I used to wake up, I used to work overnight in college, and so it kind of messed up my circadian rhythm a lot. But now what I realize is that any time can be a safe space for me based on me, morning, afternoon, and evening. But at the same time, the time is not it. The time is not the only factor. Did I have a meal in my stomach, right? Am I full, right? Meaning, are there other parts of me that are not ready to engage that way? Maybe I have a physical pain, maybe I'm tired, maybe I'm thirsty, and so normalizing some of these things, neutralizing some of these things can create that safe space. I'll be honest with you, I can't be vulnerable in a space that's not clean, right? So cleanliness sometimes add to make me feel safe. So getting to know a person allows a person to better understand what that safe space is for them. And if you have a relationship, if you call that person friend, you must have some knowledge, of what that safe space must be for that person. And then you tread lightly. You start by sharing how your wellness has been. And you start with wellness, right? Meaning what has been going good for you. Let's start with that, because that kind of brings a person into neutral settings. In my sessions, that's how I always start. Let's talk about what has gone well for you this week. Because in that reset for them, they want to come in and sometimes just pour into the negativity of all the things that happened that were traumatic and ill for them. But we start off by leading with the wellness, which gives them a different palette of safety, right? What are you grateful for? What do you can acknowledge that made you laugh, that brought you joy? And then we can transition into some of the other areas, that may be more concerning.
Okay, it's almost time to jump to the third question, but before, I have a question. C'est pas, oui, c'est vrai, son question, mais qui ça la pied? Moi, t'as vraiment que nous chaque là, in a few words, nous t'as capable ba nous balance là, pour tout haïtien qui attend là, pour tout haïtien qui passe toute vie yo, papa, garçon, protecteur, work, héros. Nan mi-temps ça me décrit là, avec un humain qui gagne feeling, qui gagne bagay k'ap traverse et qui supposé montrer feeling ni, ou bien parler de feeling ni, in a few words, côté balance là y. Est-ce que nous capables soit dans une phrase, dans deux phrases, résumer being an Asian man et puis qui est capable de faire balance là avec émotion, le besoin aide. Qu'est-ce que ça capable de dire?
Go more ki monte nan tèt mwen. Thank you for the question. It's a tough question, by the way. Go more ki monte nan tèt mwen pou mwen c'est like boundaries. C'est peut-être comment pour mettre limite, c'est-à-dire connaît que li normal pour sentir pas bien, mais ça pas veut dire tout que ou pas gen responsabilité. Donc et pour moi tout c'est pour moi tout self-awareness, c'est-à-dire c'est pour capacité tout pour capable identifier émotion yo, c'est-à-dire to name your feelings et puis pour capable mettre mots sur yo. Actually, when you are fully aware of the way you feel about you and about something, peut-être que c'est plus bonne façon pour la pour l'ouvrir pour qu'on ait qui gens pourrait chercher aide là et comment tout dans quel niveau ou qu'a peut-être besoin d'aide là sometimes. Maintenant et limite là l'homme pour nous jouer une balance là li gen doit un petit casse difficile même penser que et c'est le fait que pour aider pour moi li aller dans narratif là, c'est-à-dire the way we understand it et c'est pas parce que moi de aide là qui veut dire que moins faible pour ça. C'est pas parce que moi de aide là qui veut dire moins inférieur pour ça. Donc, actually, the ability to look for help, to look for support, and then to look for a safe space. So, it's a way to take care of your mental health. So, pour moi, it's something that is really strong to be able to do that. Ou kompren? Donc, lo kapap fè sa, m'pense que garçon haïtien yo dwe kompren ni kon sa, de kompren ni kon sa tout, ou sa mabdo, m'pense yo dwe kompren ni kon sa. Parce que, li toujou bon lè nan pale par expérience, même sou te mande que fok nou al ekoute, men denye pasyen mwen apwe ou bien my Haitian client, is a Haitian, et puis lè li resi vini la pale, li di que c'est ça que my self-disclosure was very helpful. C'est parce que li dit that he was able to say to himself, oh, it's not because I'm vulnerable, that means like I'm not a man. So that means that I'm not responsible. That means like I'm not able to take care of my family or something like that. So, vous comprenez le fait que vous capable normaliser ça et faire comprendre que oui, il est normal pour sentir comme ça, mais ça ne veut pas dire que ça diminue dans le monde lié, ça fait les moins garçons passer en l'autre garçon ou bien passer en l'autre monde, les moins monde passer en l'autre monde. Pour moi, c'est ça. C'est ça qui peut monter dans la tête. Mais même parce que grand paquet l'autre l'idée que, of course, my friends and colleagues, Matt and Job, they can contribute to this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm talking about the demo, right? So demo, et puis moi dis on créole, moi dis bénéfice ak sacrifice, right? So benefits are all the benefits that we get from being emotionally aware, right? And taking care of our emotional wellness. Là nous point soin santé mentale nous, right? Là nous point soin santé émotionnelle nous. Et un pile bénéfice. C'est pas ça pour nous, mais il y a bénéfice, you know, papa nous, right? Il y a bénéfice maman nous, et puis it doesn't just stay with us and go backwards. It also goes forward. Il y a un pile recherche qui dit comme ça, un garçon, mental, when he's mentally well, when he's balanced, right? Even before il fait timoun, bénéfice la commencé inside utero, right? Inside under maman, parce que papa a un bon santé mentale. He benefits the child, right? Through his health, the sperm is healthy, and not just the sperm, but the ecosystem he creates for the mother. And when the child gets here, the benefits are endless. The social and emotional, the academic benefits are great. So there are sacrifices that we have, sacrifice. Let nous pas acknowledge and take care of our emotional needs, and then there are benefits that outweighs all the sacrifices. So many more benefits than there are when we sacrifice our mental and emotional wellness.
All right. And the last one?
Regarde dans téléphone, c'est ça m'a doué. Dans téléphone, li piti, ou pas ka wè bagay yo même gens, tant kou lè nan ça.
It's not on mute. Okay.
You can go.
I'll take it in a different direction. With Men's Mental Health Month, one amazing, well, not amazing as in great, but one stat that stands out for men is that men complete suicide at a much higher rate than women do. Much higher rate. And that's with men holding things in, not seeking the support that they need, not following through with addressing their mental health, or even admitting that they have feelings or things that they're going through. That's a big component of leading to that stat that men complete suicide at a much higher rate than women do. These are the guys that are keeping things inside, not talking to anybody, not reaching out, not looking for support. And that shouldn't be the case. If you do have resources, you have people to be able to talk to. If we have therapists, we have people to support those needs. But guys fall with this stigma, like, let me just keep it to myself. Let me just tough it out. And I think being able to, with that question being, okay, for my mental health, and then the people around me, like Jeff was saying, like, how do I take care of me so I can take care of the people around me? Like, how do I take care of this cup so that it overflows into the other cups and the other roles that I have going on. Because those other roles will suffer if I'm not taking care of me. So how do we do that? How do we pay attention to that? How do we identify where we're going instead of every day I come from work, I'm fine, I'm okay. But you have 10 million things in your head going on that need to just, can I just speak about it? I don't even need to problem solve. Can I just let it out? Can I externalize it in some way, form, or fashion in, going back to the previous question, a safe space? Or do I have to feel like my safe space is just keeping it internal and not saying it to anybody and me feeling like that's the safe space? But at that point, tearing myself apart from the inside out. So leading to some guys committing suicide, thinking that's the best choice. And I would think everybody would agree that's never the best choice.
Great. Ou konen sa ki interesan nan dialogue la, so yeah, in my plan, the creations would be after, but it's going naturally. Donc, naturellement, question yo ap vini pendant dialogue la fête, m senti li plus naturel, plus détendu, m vraiment reme jen bagay yo ap avanse ya. Mwen gon question, mais m vle kite l pou après cinquième point nou an. Mais son question qui est très important parce que li gen rapport avec sexe opposé. Il est vrai que nous parlé de garçons, mais nous connaissons filles ont un rôle important yo jouer dans la vie garçon yo. Nous avons une idée de question nan, comment le aller même quitter vraiment pour la fin. Eh bien, si nous pas une pièce point n'a ajouter ce troisième point, est-ce que nous capable non, sur le deuxième point, est-ce que nous capable jump to the third questions?
Si kon konsey mwen kaba ou, Samson, pa mande nou si gen bagay nan ba ajoute, paske nou gen pil bagay nou tak
I know. I know, thank you. Eh bien, on nous parle de troisième question. Troisième question, on nous prend l'aborder question suicide ou bien taux de suicide. Point ça, c'était, on t'a parlé tout à l'heure de approche zanmim, non bien collègue, moi t'ai fait sous question haïtien, pas vraiment besoin, question santé mentale m'a parlé, hein. Et suicide, c'était un point m'te prend pour m'te répondre, ni. Parce que dans zone côté, et moi t'ai vivre Haïti, m'pas citer dans zone nan, parce que m'pas vle li ba yon message que m'pas vle. C'est une zone de temps à autre, où t'en de un monde tuer tête li. Et de temps à autre, c'est une zone, et comment t'as carré ça, c'est bon, c'est arcaïe, c'est zone qui gagne pile jardin, et puis c'est pendant un monde pral dans jardin, li ouais un monde mourir. Et j'aime moun nan mourir li ouais c'est tako ou connaît pas une question enquête police bagay mais j'aime moun nan bagay là si nous permettre moins et dit ça c'est moun nan pour code li pas en tête li donc c'est des bagay qui passent très souvent dans zone côté moi tape levé à Haïti et puis me te prend ça pour me te dire monsieur pas oublier telle zone mais ça qu'on a dépassé et suicide c'est un effet de maladie mentale donc on nous aller comme ça qui ça nous pense qui menait cas de suicide la kay garçon haïtien? What's driving society among Asian men? Est-ce que nous pensons qu'on croyance spirituelle tout qui est capable de mettre pression dans zone ça? Docteur Kadish, ensemble, c'est monsieur voulait mettre au devant, m'bakon est soit prend devant.
Non, c'est où qui met devant là?
Non, c'est parce que je me sens à chaque question, gon silence l'autre bois, nèg yo pas connait si pied ou pi coup de passer derrière, nèg yo vle appliquer proverbe c'est ça qui dit pied coup de près devant.
Non, mais ma bese écoute là-dedans, même pense mat gen un pile bagay li tak a dit sur ça et job tout mais parce que me songe dans dernière conversation nous t'ai parlé sur ça et actually me pense que me songe mat avec job te dit un pile bagay sur lui mais moi même dans recherche pas moi connais moi pas gen nous pas grand pile données sur ça en Haïti et comme si des études mais et zone on parler de lui me pense me connais. Et parce que parce que je travaille dans zone ça, surtout en 2021, après tremblement de terre, après l'autre tremblement de terre, si je ne me pas trompé, mais toujours gagné des données sur question ci là, ou senti que son bagage, on n'a pas envie vraiment parler de lui, mais pour moi, il associé avec peut-être des bagages qui commun dans la société noire, c'est que et le fait que nous t'as parlé de patriarcat, c'est-à-dire rôle qui est assigné à garçon en général, garçon a considéré littéralement son échec. S'il n'est pas qu'à faire ça, s'il n'est pas qu'à faire ça, s'il n'est pas qu'à faire ça, if he cannot provide, so he's a failure. So he doesn't need to be alive or pour lui exister, il n'a pas besoin d'exister en fait. C'est-à-dire, c'est comme si on shortcut les facile pour le prendre, pour le dire la vie, pas besoin, pas grand sens encore. Donc, mais même si il y a des gens qui doivent penser qu'en général, haïtien, pas tout est tête, oui, c'est vrai au cas qu'il y a des facteurs qui font que surtout religion, surtout était tout pendant l'enfer, donc il faut qu'on reste vivant ou bien tout le temps tout pour qu'on coupe ou espérer mettre chapeau, ça a changé. Mais nous gagnons quelques cas en Haïti, faut que nous pas bailler tête nous mentir, c'est-à-dire que gagner des cas, pas vraiment parler de yo, c'est comme d'accord dire we don't want to talk about that parce que c'est un tabou, nous pas parler de questions si là. Donc ça yo, mais il y a des cas qui existent, faut que nous adresser yo. Yon nan lot bagay que moi ouais, par exemple dans étude moi fait les m'a fait et doctorat moi, nous te constaté que dans like PTSD symptoms gagné plus filles qui toujours dit que yo pas senti yo bien. Donc c'est un coup to PTSD symptoms ou bien l'on fait recherche ou ka ouais que surtout dans dépression, dans PTSD ou ka ouais que gen plus filles qui déclarent que yo pas bien ou bien yo tout symptômes yo rate là ka toujours pi haut. Mais ça nous constater tout c'est que gan paquet de répression là kay garçon, c'est-à-dire yo pas gen droit dire yo pas bien. Ça veut dire they keep it inside. So ça c'est une biais qui gagne les n'a fait recherche comme si m'dakazo self-assessment. So if you're conducting a self-assessment, the man will be willing to say, oh, I'm okay, even if deep inside he knows he's not feeling okay. Parce que faut qu'il dise ça. Maintenant, l'autre élément encore, c'est que peut-être bon trouble qui relève là, c'est n'a regardé dans thème recherche. Pourquoi c'est alexithymia? How do you say that in English, guys? Alexithymia, do you say it like that? Gen un trouble côté que comme si ou mande moun qui gen difficulté pour yo mettre mot sur émotion ou bien pour exprimer et en pile recherche montre que les plus présent la kay garçon yo, ça qui t'a capable justement renforcer l'idée que tendance pour nous kembe bagay yo dans nous li en pile pour moi c'est un comme d'akazo, li gen doit plus facile pour faire exprimer que li pas bien, mais en même temps, pendant que le garçon a kembe dedans, peut-être que li gen doit dire tête li que li gen doit plus facile pour passer à l'action. So, passage à l'acte, là, j'en nous dit là en français, par exemple, li gen doit peut-être plus présent dans le garçon. Ça que m'a dit, peut-être, c'est parce que moi, pas de données concrètes, non, même sur ça qui passe en Haïti, mais nous, en pile fois qu'on est, j'en se dis, en pile garçon qui doit peut-être prendre tête yo, ou bien qui doit tuer tête yo, littéralement. Par exemple, il y a des cas nous entendez en Haïti, des garçons qui peut-être découvrent que madame yo a trompé yo doit tuer fille, yo doit tuer moun nan, et yo tuer propre peut-être pas yo après. Donc, c'est-à-dire, mais nous qu'à comprendre que des actions ça, we doit dire tout, it's not only about anger, it's also about sadness, it's also about like shame. So, monsieur prend fille pas nan même. Donc, comment ça fait possible en tant que garçon pour ça arriver? C'est des bagages comme ça. Donc, c'est des sujets qui peuvent être sensibles, mais qui sont fondamentaux. We need to talk about that. So, moi, je connais un peu de monde qui pourrait dire, as Asian, we are not suicidal. So, I understand that, but it's not 100% like true. So, gen un pile cas qui existait que nous pas vraiment parler de yo, et li important pour nous parler de yo. I used to be, the last thing I want to say, I used to be like the psychologist of one of the school in Haiti, in Port-au-Prince, Collège Canada. Gen un garçon, un petit garçon dans l'école là qui était touye tête li. Et il était difficile même pour nous voir la tête bail comme s'il était touye tête li. Parce que il était compliqué pour yo accepter que li capable touye tête li pas normal. Et même dans la nouvelle, the narrative was completely different than the reality. So, parce que I had to do some group session with the other students, so to support them. Et ouais que son monde qui t'a souffert longtemps, et en pile fois, his emotions were not validated by his peers, his friends or by his, I don't know, family members. Et puis, jusqu'à ce que nous venons point côté que li touye tête li. Donc, je pense que it's a really hard question, difficult question, but it's really important to talk about it. So, je ne sais pas si Matt avec je vais ajouter quelques bagages, mais c'est ça moi capable de dire sur question qui complexe en fait.
Yeah, I love this conversation. Right, I love this conversation for so many reasons. I actually lost a friend of mine to suicide when I was in my PhD program at Nova, which I didn't complete. But the point is, I love the fact that we're having these conversations, right? And then I have a very unpopular belief or thought around suicide. I think it's important for us to acknowledge that more Black men, even Haitian men, are completing suicide. And I think it's important because it's communicating something about where we are in this time. Right? We only sometimes look on the internal to say this person was dealing with this, that, and sometimes we forget about the conditions of our society, the conditions of our community, the conditions of our home. We all are a part of an ecosystem that's not healthy. And I know for sure more of us in this room have had the thought that I don't want to be here anymore, which is a suicidal ideation, but it's not to say that we're thinking about ending our lives, right? A lot of us have disassociation thoughts where you are there, but you're not there, right? Some of us go to work, we're there, but we're not there, right? We're in our relationships, we're there, but we're not there. Somebody's like in you, you're not there, right? And so these thoughts, I think sometimes must be normalized to share that a lot of us are in that space where we're considering not wanting to be in this present state. I mean, look outside, look what's happening. And so the outside world has a great impact on what's happening in our minds and in our hearts to then deter hope, right? When you're in a restless or hopeless situation mentally, it takes away your capacity to then think and then project a safe future for yourself or for your children or for your family. And therefore the equation will easily come to a space where you understand that, well, my presence isn't valued here anymore. Right? And so that may not be a popular response based on me saying that, yeah, I could understand, right? I could understand because I felt it. You know, I felt it and my clients have felt it. A lot of the men that I work with have experienced this phenomenon of just not wanting to participate in life anymore because it is hard. And so how do we create hope? We have to learn what are the conditions, right? Qui condition qui a kimbe nous la Plis? Like what are the conditions of our wellness, right? Let's talk more about what keeps us here, what keeps us waking up every day. And it's not just the resilient, you know, that word is a two-edged sword because it's good on one side, but then it cripples us on another side because we're resilient enough to keep going, but we're resilient enough to not address it as well, right? And so, yes, we can be resilient to keep going, but we also have to be resilient in mind to think about what is necessary in creating an ecosystem, a condition that's external, internal, to then be a space where we would like to be here longer. And it doesn't matter where. It could be on the island of Haiti. It could be in Miami, where I am in Atlanta. It doesn't matter where. All of us are sharing this ecosystem, right? It's brought to all of us now on our phones, on the web. Everywhere you go, information is being pumped inside of us. And so we have to guard what we can to understand what keeps us safe enough, what keeps us well enough, what keeps us in joy and love. I think a lot of us need to be in love again. Right. And that means falling in love with yourself. The idea of my value, of loving myself enough to know that my sadness isn't the end of me. My anger isn't the end of me or the definition of me. There are more sides to me. This is just a part that I'm going through. And then the clarity I receive from understanding and acknowledging that can allow me to see a day where I don't have to stay and experience what I'm experiencing right now.
All right. Par contre, si nous prenons troisième intervention avant, nous avons deux questions. Une from
Excusez-moi, Samson, Job t'appelle ton bagage.
okay.
Yeah, I was gonna give my two cents on that piece. I think, and somebody just said resiliency in the chat, resiliency wild enough to stay in a solo or a silo and by yourself. It goes back to my first point I made at the beginning. Like sometimes we can be resilient culturally anyway for us, so resilient to a fault. Like, but somebody who is not able to share their feelings and keeps everything inside and thinks they can just suffer on their own, that leads to that suicide that we're talking about. That leads to people thinking that's a viable option, being so resilient that you stand on it like a badge of honor. But there's got to be a break in that. You cannot always be that resilient. There has to be a break in that. We're not meant to be that way 24/7. It's like when you think of when I used to work with the Marines, my Marines, like if they're in Afghanistan, they have to be super vigilant 24/7. But the human body wasn't made to be hyper vigilant 24/7. So when they come back, now they have to readjust. They're going through PTSD because they weren't made to be that way. We're not made to be super resilient all day long. Having support, being able to talk to people, being able to find people to find those safe spaces is a part of our human nature. To be able to have that and have that support. But being resilient to the point that, hey, I'm just keep this to myself. Nobody's going to support me. I'm going to just do it on my own. That's not healthy for any of us. That leads to those actions where people think, hey, taking my life is probably the best option when it's not. You know, when I lost my first client to suicide, that was one of the most devastating things in my career. But what I saw in that person's eyes was no value in themselves. Like this was the best option. There was nothing I could do for that person at that point. They had already made up their mind. Like they didn't want to share anymore. They didn't want to talk. And this was a good option for them. That's what they thought. But it takes a lot to get there. A lot of mental health issues, a lot of not opening up, not having support. It builds up to that. It's not something that somebody wakes up one day and says, I'm going to do this. But it's a buildup of not having that support, not having people to talk to, not thinking you have enough value. Not what value or purpose do I have on this earth? I think Matt mentioned that, like having your protective factors. Those are very important. Like, what value do I bring to this world? Do I want to not live? Do I want to stay because I have my 3 kids? Do I not want to go because my brother and sister needs me? Even for some people, protective factors. Oh, I don't want to leave my dog. I don't want to go because it's my dog. Whatever. But finding a protective factor that combats that helplessness and hopelessness and finds value for you and purpose for you to be here.
I think
Thank you, guys. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have some issues to unmute my phone. There are Jessica, Taylor, and Sandrine. They put some questions on the chat. Can we go to Jessica, then Taylor, and then Sandrine? Jessica asked a question about helplessness and helplessness as key indicators for higher society. Et puis, Taylor parlait de garçon qui gagne recours avec alcool, sex, kind of things. Et puis, là, où ça pas qu'à aider. Et puis, suicide, quand vient dernière option, yo, li mande qui t'a meilleure action pour un monde comme ça ta prend. Et puis, Sandrine m'a des questions sur épidémie solitude là. Is the mal loneliness epidemic impacting Asian men differently? Yeah. So what can you do? What can you say about them?
Matt, you can go.
I definitely don't mind. Hopelessness and helplessness, man. This is something that I was introduced to very early and actually gained my interest in psychology. I was taking a course called Law Studies where we had to do mock trials and I had to play the role of a psychiatrist. And the person who was on trial for murder was a woman who was experiencing learned helplessness, which is a pattern of hopeless and helpless ideations about their life circumstances. And short, what that means is that a person has accepted and adopted that reality as their truth and don't believe anything good will come their way. And so they have found a way to then live in that state of hopelessness without any desire or faith in the future that can produce something different, right? And so I think there is a point to then correlate to how Black men feel or Haitian men feel, because it almost seems compounded, where we feel sometimes that where's the break coming? Where's the break coming? You know, what happens is that there's a traumatic experience, then there's another traumatic experience, then there's another traumatic experience. You know, I think about the history of my father, who was born in the 40s. Goodness, I think he's born in 40. He's old, right? But the point is, when I think about what he had to deal with growing up and living in Haiti, you know, for the years he was there, right? And then leaving Haiti in, I think, 75, around the Papa Doc, you know, era, you know, leaving Haiti, coming to Nassau, and then having to deal with more trauma in Nassau, and then leaving Nassau, coming to Miami, and then having to deal with more trauma, you know. And so it's like, when can we catch a break? Right? When is that break coming? And unfortunately, sometimes we have a hope of a future that's not certain, that allows us to then repeat that idea of hopelessness. Nothing is going to happen for my good. And if that is the reality, then what our part is to then talk about the benefits of having hope, of what it means to then feel hopeful, right? The feeling of hopeful, a feeling of gratitude, a feeling of desire, right? A feeling of value intrinsically, right? What is my value? Is my value just in what I can do for others? Or is my value in the wellness and the joy that I can experience in this world? And it is an awakening, right? Because the conditions may not change externally, but if we can change the perception of the mind, and that's the work that we do, you know, the work that I do, you know, Dr. Jeff and Joe do, is that we help reprogram the mind in Black men and Haitian men to then produce an idea of what could be, right? And the possibility changes the, you know, the physiology, you know, internally first, that has an impact on our ecosystem, right? That means when I start to think differently about what the benefits of me, you know, what the benefits of my life, what joy I've experienced, right? And what joy are potentially there if I can see them. Just looking outside sometimes can give a person a way of reframing. You know, there's beauty all around us, but unfortunately, in the chaos of our minds, sometimes we can't see those things. So what we do is we create a path of clarity to then have space to see something different, to experience something different, to go outside and say, thank you, God, because I can see, I can breathe, I can taste, you know, I can touch, I can feel, I can, you know, and there's so much to then acknowledge that then we can create a different path. And of course, some of those assessments, and I think somebody put the PCL5 in the back, those assessments are great, and they are catered to, you know, kind of a white narrative, a white American narrative. And so we have to be more curious, because the symptoms are different, the signs are different. We mask differently, right? Male sentio, right? And just keep on going, right? And so we have to bypass all of that by making sure that our language, you know, our pace, even the context of how we frame the words we choose in therapy, creates a different pathway to, I wouldn't even say success, I would say to wellness, because success may be different for everybody, but wellness is a universal understanding of well within you, right? That well of goodness that's within you. And so I'm gonna pass it on. Anybody else can jump in.
Wonderful, wonderful. I like that. I really like that. Yes, nous vraiment pas avancé vers 9h. Par contre, pour qui ça, l'heure a couru comme ça.
Yeah, the enemy is making you pray. The enemy is making you fast. Your haters are making you seek God.
What?
It's something about a person that betrays you.
What's going on?
Here we go.
Because elle pas connaît les collègues.
Yeah, il pas connaît. Yeah, nous avancer non. Oui, m't'a dit que par contre pour ça l'heure a couru comme ça parce que il est à 9h, il pral 9h 25. Nous aller en tige succinct pour nous cap get non seulement couvrir tout point yo mais dire ça qui est vraiment nécessaire. M'pas senti m'ka fini là mais malheureusement nous pas capable mon en pile. Yeah, nous réagir sur l'autre question question Mounio, Sandrine et puis Taylor.
Bon, sous question Sandrine, nan, mwen tan vi don bagay, et peut-être que gan pil bagay ki ta kapab di. C'est vrai que, I mean, to say it clearly, like the world is going crazy out there. So, quand paquet bagay ka pase dans le monde la kounya, ok, qui a affecté moun en général, bien-être moun en général. Donc, I was talking to a friend and he said to me, I feel so bad for this new generation. So, because there is a lot of things going on, a lot of traumatic experiences, a lot of traumatic events, yeah. And we ended up talking about mental health. Et puis, so how to be a man in this world, man? So we are taught to be strong, to provide, to be present, and to always have the solution for all of the problems. So living compliqué, ou presque senti ou pas même gen temps pour tellement chercher réponse en fait. Mais et pour Haïtiens en général, when it comes to Asian men lately, so gen yon bagay qui passe dans la tête, mais c'est we cannot forget, for example, some of in the PTSD we have now V codes, right? Come see, taking into consideration the context when we use the PTSD to for diagnosis and everything. So we need to consider the context, and everybody knows that we have, maybe not everybody, we have what we call like adjustment disorder. We feel like for Asian men, so we are in the ongoing adjustment when it comes to some specific risk factors. Let's say right now in Haiti, so mwen kon an pil moun, men an pil garçon surtout. So quel que soit agent sa ou perdi travail ou perdi job ou perdi business et nous pas besoin connaître quel que soit agent ça you have to show up and you have to provide. So, parce que c'est li retourner dans la question patriarcat. C'est comme d'akadou, you don't have time to feel lonely. At the same time, of course, it's okay to feel lonely, but we're trying to understand the perception, or we're trying to understand the situation. So I'm trying to explain. I'm not saying that it's okay to feel this way, like ou pa gen tan pou triste, but it's okay to feel sad. Mais c'est un coup senti bon pression. There is that pressure. So et là encore, recently I used the PHQ-9 to assess like Asian men to talk about depression. Like you said, man. So the score showed up that he only has like a moderate depression. But at the end of the day, this man was very grounded, and he didn't want to say that in an assessment, like using a PHQ-9 or any other questionnaire, and he even didn't want to talk about it. But once he felt safe with me, so he was able to open himself. So c'était comme d'akadou, c'est less of in comprendre nan ki niveau depression nan li pas seulement modéré, it was comme si li était vraiment sévère. So it was a severe depression, but mais sou te rete seulement nan PHQ-9 nan, ou pas tap ka cerner li. C'était comme d'akadou, li prend important pour nous garder comment nous tête nous et comment nous répondre tous les garçons haïtiens tout répondre les affaires assessment. It's about men in general, but la nous, parce que we need to consider also some specific risk factors to our culture, or the political context right now, the economic context right now. So, par exemple, mwen gon zanmim ki tap vive Haiti, ki te gen kay li, ki te gen business li, ki te gen de l'école, ki tap travay bien, and then like no titan tout court, so he lost everything and he had to move to the US, and now to start over, it's not that easy. Like it's like for some of them, not only the men, a lot of Asian people we know, so it's very complicated. Mais les n'a gade nan ka garçon, quel que soit jan viril, jan tournel, yo mande yo pour yo répondre, pour yo provide, pour yo capable justement pour te manger à sous table là ou bien pour te l'argent. Donc c'est on l'autre pression en plus Donc, c'est ça qui fait que libre l'important qu'on y a pas qu'on nous pourrait parler de ça. We need to identify the resources, how to put in place some, community-based services to support our men out there. Not only the men, but as we're talking about men, so I say men, mais pas seulement garçons. So we need to put in place some services, cultural services tailored to their needs. So to make sure we address the issues very accurately, et puis pour nous joindre bon genre solution pour ça. But there's a lot going on. Yeah. Got on silence.
No, I actually went in the chat and answered the question as well. And so I put my answer in the chat to the second question from Sandrine.
Moi, c'est moi répondre dernière question,
Yeah,
Jessica.
the second one is from Taylor.
Yeah.
I'll address Taylor's question. So Taylor is saying when men feel depressed or anxious, they often cope with temporary pleasures like alcohol, partying, or sex. And we know these things don't help, and sometimes suicide is the only option. What would be the best action for a man to actually take? I mean, first we got to identify what a man is doing in that situation. They're feeling a void, that anxiousness or that depression that they're feeling. They're trying to get away from that feeling. They don't want to stay there. So, with those options that Taylor mentioned, alcohol, sex, partying, those are temporary because it gives you a high. It gives you an impulsive, quick high just to change that space that you're in. Unfortunately, for those things, once you come down from it, you still have to deal with the issue that was there already. The issue doesn't go away, and sometimes when you come down, it gets even worse. So it could lead to worse mental health illness or thoughts of suicide at that point. The thing for men to actually do in this scenario is to be able to start to address what's going on, what brought them to that place of anxiousness or depression in the first place. Going back to what we've said, finding that safe place to speak up, find support, really work through the things that are really affecting them to get to that place. One thing I do with a lot of my guys in my practice is be able to expand their emotional vocabulary. Most guys will just say, "I'm mad, sad, or glad." When no, did you feel betrayed? Did you feel like you got cheated on? Did you feel like you're silenced? Do you feel there's such whatever a big vocabulary of emotions that I teach my guys. Let's look more specifically. What kind of mad are you? What kind of sad are you? And that can open the doors to start to talk about what's really going on with them and how we can start to process what they may be going through, rather than let me just find a quick fix real quick and let's just deal that, but then come back to the same sad or mad or depressed place that they were before. Yeah, is it tough to sit and admit like, hey, I feel helpless, I feel powerless, or I feel like lonely, or I feel betrayed? That vulnerability is actually what helps a person get to a better place by being able to identify that hurt that they're actually going through. And I think Jeff said it earlier, it's brave to be able to admit, what am I actually going through versus the guy that just sits there silently thinking that's tough. That's actually not tough. That's easy to sit there and not say anything. But for me to identify what I'm really going through, what actual feelings I'm going through, what vulnerable feelings I'm feeling, and then to ask for the support, work through it. That's a real strength to be able to do that. I mentioned earlier I work for the military. One of my high-ranking guys came into a meeting one day and he told his guys this. He's like, the courage and bravery is not somebody who just does something courageously without any fear. It's the guy who has fear, who feels some sense of vulnerability, but still shows up for himself and the guys around him. That takes a lot more bravery to have those things in place and still show up, rather than not acknowledge that at all. So being able to talk about those vulnerabilities, find safe places, look for support, being able to help that guy get to a place where they can start to recognize what they're going through and process it in a healthy, safe way. That's what you want in those kind of situations, rather than those quick outlets that just give quick impulses, quick highs, and very little results.
Samson?
Okay, let's jump to the fourth question because it's almost 9. 2 hours talking. It's a lot, but it was good. It's very, very, very interesting. The fourth question is, what unique mental health challenge do men face versus women? What unique mental health challenges do men face versus women? Qui défi mental que garçon a fait face, qui unique à garçon et comparativement avec fille. Qui ça nous ka répondre dans ça? C'est nous-mêmes qui gagne expertise là. On a les messieurs.
Matt, the expert in family therapy.
Moun sa va yen, son Spanish fi. E mwen gen de l'option yen kon moun sa ap
So unique challenges that I think men are facing than women are the fact that we address our mental and physical issues less, which then separates us from the services necessary to then treat them. And so I've made it a practice of mine to not allow the women in the men's life to then make their appointments for them. And so I challenge the men that I see to take the initiative of calling first and having a conversation with me. The women can make the initial call, the sister, the mom can make the initial call, but before I see that person, you're gonna have to speak to me first because I need you invested in your own wellness. I think sometimes we as men feel like because illness isn't acknowledged and wellness isn't for me either, right? And there's a part of me that just screams from the mountaintop that, listen, man, wellness is your birthright. We're not born to live in pain and agony and mental exhaustion. We are born to have life and life more abundant, right? We are born to experience joy and harmony and bliss and thrive. And so to then discount your pain and suffering is to discount the experience you can actually have when you do have a healthy ecosystem. I know a lot of Haitian men, they love their jardin, right? They love their jardin, right? You're getting shot deck, you're getting money up, you're getting this, they got that, right? And they know how to care for that garden. They know how to take care of that ecosystem very well. They invest so much in the health of that ecosystem. They know what they have to put and remove, and that is a knowledge. That is such a benefit to them, right? But sometimes I feel like we know more about the external ecosystem than we do the internal because we are taught to pay attention externally and then benefit the outside world. It's not just our garden. We take care of our families. We show up to work on time, right? We don't miss a day at work. We don't ever call in sick. We don't take vacations, because that's how we've been socialized to just go be that go-getter. But then we miss out on so many benefits of just the acknowledgement that, listen, I need a break, right? Why? Because the ecosystem is not just there that you create for others, but it's there for you as well. We need rest. We need respite. We need to experience safe spaces of vulnerability. We need hugs, right? We need love. We need words of affection. We need acknowledgement, right? We need these things. These are part of the things that keep our internal healthy, that then adds value, right? That's the value added right there to then how we can care more for the things we value as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Nous rete vraiment 10 minutes pour nous et fin couvrir tout point nous yo et ensuite conclure et faire remerciement yo. Dans 10 minutes, bon tout ajouter question ça et puis n'a tout fait toute bagaille. N'a tout fait toute bagaille, c'est vraiment et les pour nous fini. Question d'à poser, est-ce que nous pensez, alors c'est pratiquement 2 questions, est-ce que nous pensez yon garçon gen plus tendance pour le honte pour demander aide que yon fille? Ça c'est un. Deuxièmement, qui ça yon fille qui dans la vie yon garçon capable faire pour le créer yon safe place pour garçon ça capable sentir à l'aise pour l'exprimer sentiment.
Ok, let me go first. Je pas répondre tous les deux, non, m'a quitté peut-être reste pour job. Mais, m'a répondre avec expérience pratique. Mais, par exemple, peut-être les carré pour la dernière question, the last question. Last week I got a call from one of, let's say, my former client, like a woman. She called because she wanted me to see her daughter. She said, my therapy experience with you was amazing. And now I'm moving forward. So I'm doing great. But because before she was talking, when I used to see her, she was talking about her border situation, kind of, and now she wanted me to, she would like, she want me to see, she wants me to see her border. I think I said, okay, I understand that, but have him call the office. He needs to call. He needs to reach out to me, and so we can talk about it. So make your own appointment. You said that, man. So uh, most of the time, exactly. So we need to, I mean, the first step is very important. Un peu de fois, l'on fait premier pas, ou pas le que reste là plus facile. But another thing I would like to say, probably in this question, how the woman can support, can help, is also by creating that safe space without judgment. Make it very authentic. You know, create a space for acceptance where I feel like my feelings are validated. When I feel like it's okay to not be okay, it's okay to say I'm sad. And it's okay to say I'm sad because I know you can listen to me, you can normalize that feeling, and you're not gonna judge me. Et puis, ou pas tourner le bon moi, là, nous n'en compte. Okay, you're not gonna use it against me when we have an argument. So, that is really important. So, for men to understand that. And that's interesting because the last thing I want to say, today, I had this like man in his 50s in therapy, and then he said something like, I cannot remember how many times, I do a lot of things for my wife, massage, back massage and a lot of things. So taking care of her, touching her without having sex. But do do women understand that as a man we need that too? He asked me the question, but c'est tellement, it's true. It's so true. So yeah, yeah, we need that too. So I think women out there, they need to understand that. So it can be very interesting for me, like to lay down on bed and to get a massage, and it doesn't need to lead to sex, so just to, it's important, but I
Bayo,
need
pastor, bayo.
You're besoin comme ça. So Job, you can take over, go.
I don't know how I can follow that. Well, I'll go to the safe place. I mean, you put a lot of good points out there. Both gentlemen did. I'll add to the safe pace. One technique I use with my couples in couples counseling is ask your partner, like, especially for men that don't feel like it's a safe place, be able to express to your partner, hey, I just want you to listen right now. No problem solving, no asking a lot of questions, whatever the case is. Can you just listen? Can you just hear right now without any commentary or asking me how to problem solve, or did I do that to do the to fix the situation? But just really just listen. Um, that provides a great space for people to be okay. Let me open up because I know I'm not going to get judged. I know I'm not going to you're not going to point out what I did wrong in the situation. Like, I really just want to be heard by my partner. And that really helps for a lot of my couples to be able to create that safe space with them. Like, do you want me to help you problem solve right now, or just want me to hear? Just that question alone helps so many of my couples in their arguments. Like, okay, she can actually listen to me. This is great. I can open up more. And you want that space for you to be able to communicate and have those good conversations because now I'm not getting poked and prodded, or I'm getting questioned about my what I did to get to this place. I just want that safe place to just be able to talk and open up. And I think that's one of the great techniques or tools that I use with my couples to be able to provide that space, man or woman. Just be like, that's one simple question: do you need me to just listen, or do you want me to help you problem solve?
All right. Thank you so much. Matt, anything? Last thing?
I always have something. I always have something. I think there's so much benefit in understanding, what those exchanges bring to the relationship. As far as when a woman and man are exchanging, right? Those are bridges of intimacy, and we leave so much on the table. But what I was thinking about when the brothers were talking is that sometimes as men we feel like our wellness offend people, right? When we're too happy, then there is something wrong with you. Why are you so happy, right? So we sometimes we hold back our joy to then fit into this narrative of what a man is, And so I want to say this publicly, like, my brothers, man, your joy, your wellness does not offend me. I said this on another podcast, and people are like, "What? Your joy, your wellness does not offend me as another man. To see you happy, to see you well, brings me joy." Right? When I can see you in this space, it brings me joy. And so I think we have to accept each other in both areas. When we aren't well, I still accept you, and I still care for you, and I still love you, and I'm still a safe space for you. But when you're doing great, that then excites me even more, right? And so it's okay, men, to be okay as well. It's okay for us not to be okay, but it's definitely okay for us to live in our wellness and live in that joy. So that's the only thing I want to add right there.
Whew. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to spend 2 hours with you guys. Vraiment pas ta reme bagay sa fini, mais malheureusement faut nous fini. Faut nous fini, et merci en pile, monsieur, pour tout ça nous pote, Jeff, Job, Matt, merci en pile, et moi mes message là, boys, don't cry, and there is a red cross on it. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Boys, do cry.
Do cry.
Moi message ça. I like it. I love it. Moi vraiment m'tap enjoy li, et ça qui est intéressant dans chat là encore, m'a tande, m'a regardé, et puis m'gal dans chat là m'a enjoy. Merci à tout le monde qui t'a participé dans chat là, surtout Jessica qui kembe chat là. Vraiment chaud. Nous pral fini assurément si t'as prend charge et remerciement gen côté m'a tombé, et pour ça bon quitter yon the greatest person that I met from 2010 dans question santé mentale. Et c'est Dr. Nicolas qui te mené le banou en Haïti. I'm capable de me témoin when she just started, and now she's the president of Rebati Santé Mentale. Nous pas de chance d'entendre dans l'introduction, et c'est avec un pile honneur m'a introduit lui qui pourra le faire remerciement et tout conclut pour nous. Dr. Janak, merci en pile parce que tu as créé l'opportunité ça pour nous être capable de gagner 3 panélistes, 3 spécialistes viennent parler nous de santé mentale garçon, et nous ba au micro pour capable non seulement remercier tout le monde qui t'a participé dans rendre bagay ça possible, surtout avec participants nous qui quitté activité yo venir avec nous, et surtout tout conclu pour nous pour webinaire ça. Heureusement c'est pas dernière fois n'a point, et pas dernier rendez-vous nous. Donc Dr. Janak, n'a vraiment été content de vous.
It's going to be Dr. Sanville today. I am the executive director. Dr. Janak had to step out. No worries.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
No worries. I want to thank all 4 of you for being here. If you are interested in finding them, I have added all of their socials and their practice websites. So if you're interested in going to see them, please check them out. We also want to encourage folks to become members of Rebati Sante Mentale, and we are offering $25 therapy right now as a grant through JCS for folks in South Florida. So I also wanted to drop those announcements. And Jeff,
thank you for being one of our clinicians that's going to be providing services for $25 for folks in our community. And I want to give a big shout out to Jessica. She is the owner of Haitian Therapist. They're starting their directory, and they have a wonderful program called Boost Lakai, which helps people donate to folks who can't afford therapy right now. And so if you are interested in Boost Lakai, please look into Haitian Therapists. Other than that, thank you so much. And I hope you all have a good night.
Oh là là, good night everyone. Merci pour ton nous. Bye bye.
Yes.
Bye.